see her sticker over there.
She's biased.
Facebook Live, we're about to cut you off because we're about to get started with our private event. I just want to give a shout out to my great friend, Ronnie Martin, who needs your vote. Thank you. Sorry, I'm a narcissist, as most of you know, and I wanted to give it a little attention for Ronnie on my Facebook Live. But thank you, everybody, for coming out. The purpose of Level Up is I want to create a networking group, and I don't want to cannibalize the networking group with people that are in other industries. I want them to be in their own separate industry, and the purpose is for us to help everybody. Like you, Jeffrey Baker, Jimbo Hooten, I want you to help each other. I want to be able to help you. So the reason for this group that we've got, how many people on the page now, Kathleen? About 33 people. We're going to put more content on there. I don't know if Coach Bird has already left or not, but we may even have him start putting some stuff in there. But I want people to get value. I want you to get value by the content, but more importantly, I want there to be a relationship with other people who can help you have a better life. And the other thing I want to do in this group is I want to bring great people on here and I want to interview. So this is a podcast. So watch your language. What's your opinions? It's going to go out on the iTunes, on the YouTube, and I don't know where else it's going to go. But I want this to be a very involved podcast. That's why I want you up here. I want you to talk. Tonight we've got a friend of mine named Ronnie Martin. Most of you know him. Does anybody in here not know Ronnie Martin? Jeffrey Baker, do you not know Ronnie Martin?
Jeff, I'm Ronnie Martin. Nice to meet you.
How the hell do you not know Ronnie Martin? Well, you should know Ronnie Martin. You're going to know him by the end of the night. But Ronnie is someone that I have known since we were probably sophomores in high school. It probably goes back that far. Mm-hmm. Ronnie was a soccer player.
A really good soccer player.
A really good soccer player. But
well, I'm sorry. Paul's in the room. He didn't know the difference. That's a pretty good soccer player. Yeah.
But Ronnie and I are roughly the same age. He stays in better shape, so he looks younger. But tonight I want you to think about questions. I want you to think about anything specific that you would like to ask Ronnie, and just raise your hand because it's going to be in that kind of format. Now, I'm going to ask him some questions, and my goal is for everyone sitting in here, weatherman, I want you to think about some of the things that he says, and I hope it could help you. That's where most of my questions derive from, is what I want to know. And I'm going to lead this off right now. One time, I want you to know me and Ronnie grew really close during that recession because I would call him so many times, and he would tell me on what I had to do next, the next steps that I needed to do. And that meant a lot to me, and that's the reason why I'm never going to do business with another banker, is because of the times that he spent with me on Saturday morning. But I remember this one time he told me, and it didn't really stick with me until I started doing what he said. And his belief is, if you just focus on getting great, if you focus on being really good at what you do, all the things that you're chasing will find you. Do you remember talking about that? Do you know where that belief came from? And is that still one of your beliefs today?
Yeah, I don't know specifically. Maybe that started with parents, like so many things that we do. Our parents are a big influence on us. I can remember my parents telling me that you can do anything that you want to do. And my parents, they didn't graduate from high school. So I was the first kid out of my family to graduate from high school, first kid to go to college. But I can remember them giving me this impression that, you could do anything that you wanted to do, but be the best at what you do. And so that really resonated with me. It let me know that, I had a lot of work to do, that if I wanted to be in a different situation, if I wanted to have a better life, if I wanted to basically have success, financially with a family, my challenge was with myself. I had to be the best version of me. So that's what I went to work on, was trying to be the best version of me.
So I remember always chasing money. And it never dawned on me about, I got to get really good at what I do. Yeah. I want to learn how to make more money. So what do you believe the difference is between somebody that wants to make money as opposed to a true professional that just really is aspiring to get great at what they do?
You know, I have worked with some very unique talents, people that are just super bright and different than everyone else. I'm not one of those people. But what I do know is most people that go to work every day, especially if you work for someone else, so I work for a bank, right? Now I have sort of carved out a business inside of the bank that I work at, which is First Bank. So I don't necessarily do, even though I'm a banker and I do commercial lending and construction lending, what I do is a little different than what everybody else does. And First Bank has allowed me to carve out that space because they think I'm pretty good at it. They keep me around and I try to be good at it. But from the standpoint of chasing dollars or chasing specifically those things, you know, I'm a big believer that transferring the commitment to greatness, transferring the commitment to being excellent at what you do, transfers in every field. And so it doesn't matter if you're in law or you're in construction or you're in banking or you're whatever it is, real estate. Focus on, you know, the blocking and tackling every single day. Focus on trying to do really well. And what I knew is young bankers, I think, struggle with this, and I think young people in general may struggle with this. You know, it's that immediate gratification. They're not willing to wait. They see people have success, and they want that same success. We all do. But there's a certain amount of investment in yourself you have to do. And if you're not working hard to be the absolute best version of who you are, then what value can you create, and how do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace? And so for me, you know, if you're just chasing dollars, just chasing that opportunity, it's a very short-sighted, very short-term opportunity to be great versus laying the foundation for greatness that you can just be who you are and continue to get better every single day, and greatness finds you. I mean, I believe that. I believe that greatness finds people that really want to be great.
What do you work? Did you have a question, sir? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you raised your hand. Tell me, what do you feel like, for anybody out here or yourself, what do you feel like are ways that you can hashtag level up? What are some ways you feel like everybody or anyone in here, what is the fastest way to level up?
Surround yourself with good people. People that are smarter than you, people that have different talents, different skill sets that you do not have. I'm not great in a crowd. You're great in a crowd.
I'm really not.
I think you're pretty good.
I'd like to sit over there with Dave. I'd like to be like Dave Thomas, Mr. Football.
Yeah.
What year was that? What year? 04?
Yesterday.
What year were you Mr. Football, Dave? 04. Number 9. See, I sent you a card. I put number 9 in there. Did you see that?
But being around people that challenge you, you know, you and I have a lot of these conversations. I think if you can find people in your circle that are very honest with you, that care about you as an individual, care about your success, and they're willing to invest in that success with honest conversation, that's a rare thing, because people are reluctant to be honest with you. They don't want to isolate you. They're fearful of, you know, what you may think, what you may think of them if you're honest or if they're honest. So I think it's a big deal. Surround yourself with the right people, but also, you know, the lifelong learning thing, pushing to get better every single day. My team at First Bank, so I have 2 lenders that work with me and 2 loan assistants. So I've got a team, if you will. It's a unique concept in banking. But one of the things that my 2 junior lenders struggle with is they try to do things exactly the way I do them. They want to basically model my behavior. Well, you can't really do that. You can take systems and apply systems and take, you know, the lessons learned from those systems to build consistency, and I think consistency builds results. But I can't do things exactly the way you can do them. You might not be able to do things exactly the way I do. Abernathy, you know, nobody's as smart as Abernathy, so we may not be able to do things the way Scott can do things. But that does not mean that we can't all have great success. So focus on the things you do well. Be proud of the things you do well, and, you know, surround yourself with the right people that push you and be honest with you and will help you grow. I mean, that's what you do so well. I mean, you advocate, you know, these people are here because, you know, they believe in you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. If you're starting to come up with questions, just raise your hand and we're going to ask Ronnie. excuse me, I might, oh, yes, you.
Well, one question is, I know you want to top commercial lenders
The top.
So, also now you're running for city council. So
Yeah.
two questions. So, what makes you want to run for city council? And is this a stepping stone going into a bigger political avenue? Is that something you think about?
That was probably one of my questions.
So I'm told, this is one of the things I'm not great at. So I'm told I need to consolidate this statement into something short. Phil Griffin would probably tell me that as well. So, but interestingly enough, like so many things that happen, I kind of stumbled into this. So I went to the city council meeting where they were voting on whether or not to allow Susan Young to take the remainder of Doug Young's term. Why did I go? Went to college. Doug Young was a KA at MTSU, looked up to him as a businessman in the community, thought he was a great person. Nobody invited me to go. Nobody cared that I was there. I don't even think anybody knew I was there. But I went because I cared about Doug. So, and I saw that was a very contentious situation. And our mayor had to cast the deciding vote in that. And there were a lot of opinions about how that thing should go down. And I emailed Shane on Saturday, so this was a Thursday. You know, I'm working on Saturday morning, so I emailed him about 5 o'clock Saturday morning. I said, hey, look, I'm not emailing you to complain about anything because I know that's probably what he gets. I want you to know I appreciate who you are and I appreciate what you do for the city. And that was a really tough situation to be in. And it's just my nature, and I tell my kids this all the time, you know, put yourself in a situation to see when you're making judgments about how people would make decisions, put yourself in their shoes. What would you do? Most importantly, why would you do that? And so I went through that process of, you know, should she be allowed to do this? Why should she not be allowed to do this? And I forced myself to answer that question. And it was probably something that would not have been popular amongst people in the community. I would have let her do that. And I would have let her do it for the specific reason that nobody knew, in my opinion, Doug Young's politics better than Susan. And it was within probably a year or so of an election coming up. And what I know now, after going to as many city council meetings and planning commission meetings and all the stuff I'm trying to do to become a better candidate, for the first year when you're a city councilman, you don't know anything about being a city councilman anyway. And so what would we have lost by allowing Susan to sit in that role? So anyway, there's a bigger story to that, but that's the start of what would I have done and why would I have done it. And is it my responsibility to play a bigger part in what's going on in the community? Do I have things to give? You know, can I be of value not only to the citizens, but can I be of value to the current council people? And I think I can.
What makes Ronnie one of the best sales people that I know is I think he's like my buddy Scott Abernathy.
Who's leaving?
You leaving? Oh, going to church.
That's a good reason to leave. Good for
Ronnie,
you.
I think, can argue any side that he's placed on and do it well. He is great at sharing his opinion on one side of the story, but he also understands how to explain the other side. And it's a great gift when you're talking to somebody like me that fires about 80 questions in 5 seconds at you, how he has the patience, he has the skill, he is a very good listener, and he is exceptional at acknowledging your belief and understanding why you're asking it. But then you're so good at defining your position. How did you perfect that? And is that something you're even aware that you do?
You know, I think it comes back to, for me, the humility of knowing I don't have all of the answers. And so I try to, every situation I'm in, when you come to me or when anybody comes to me with something, I immediately assume you're right about what you're talking about. And I'm looking for things to say, well, I don't think that's exactly right. I'm not sure you're looking at that exactly correctly. But I keep listening, and I reserve judgment until I'm finished and have formed some view of what you're saying. And then what I know is my responsibility in that is to come back and say, I heard what you said. I want to make sure I heard what you said. Here's my view on that. So help me with this. Do you believe this? Would this change your mind? And it's really a collaborative effort. So I don't ever assume I know better than you or than anyone else that I'm talking to. But for me to serve you or for me to serve the community, I've got to be willing to listen. And there are a lot of people that, I probably shouldn't say that. I think a lot of times it's easy for us to say we're going to listen and that we want to do what's best. But truly, I measure my success by your success. And that lifts me up. And so, translate that to the city. If we're successful as a community, if we're successful as a city, I'm going to take great pride in that. But it's not going to be because I did something. It's going to be because I listened and did what I do pretty well, which is trying to gather as much information as I can, as thoughtfully as I can. And, and I'm willing to work hard to, go out and if you bring things to me that I don't understand, which you do sometimes, and I have to go do a little homework on that and come back, because you challenge me all the time. You're on the edge of saying, we should do this, and this is what we're going to do.
Real smart.
And so there are times, especially over the last couple of years, because you've pushed so hard to get better, and you've pushed everybody else to get better. You're pushing me to get better. And that's one of the reasons I like to be around you, and it's one of the reasons I believe in you. So.
Hey, I get a lot of my banking information from one of my best buddies over there, Scott Nagy. So
yeah.
A lot of times he'll tell me, hey,
he causes me all kinds of problems.
Here's how you can really beat the system. I'm going to move along to some personal stuff, but anybody, if you got any questions, I want you to raise your hand and fire them. If you're not just an insanely loyal person, you're probably not going to understand this. You just may not believe it. You may not have the awareness. But me and Ronnie, we've had some conversations that, I've told very few people about. Me and Ronnie are at such a deep level of how we communicate and how we confide in each other. And the reason why is I think there's an intensity to our loyalty. And Ronnie is one of the most loyal people that I've ever been around. So if somebody's talking about me, I mean, he might fight you. His wife's the same way.
She's much worse.
They're both they're both overprotective of me, their friends and other things. How important do you believe loyalty is?
I think as a society, it's really easy to find people's shortcomings. I think it's not hard to do that. I think it takes, a whole lot more work, a whole lot more discipline, a whole lot more effort to lift people up. And, I look for people like that in my life because, nobody wants to be around somebody bringing you down all day long. I mean, it drives me nuts, somebody's negative. And so I don't like that. And I try to make sure those people are on the fringes for me. Because it's just not healthy, it's distracting. But if you can find, and we all have them, special people in our lives that share our values, they share our commitment to, each other. We're talking about a networking group here to support one another in their businesses. It's amazing what you can do. I work more than I should. I do more. I take more time away from my family than I should. But that allows me to leverage things that a lot of people can't do because they're not willing to work as hard as I am. But it's nowhere near the power of the lever that you have if you can bring a group of people that are united to do something. So, same values, same goals. It's a big deal. Did I answer that question?
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a curse because there's probably things in my life that have held me back because of how loyal I am. But I do believe like gravitates towards like, and I think that's why we're so close.
Well, I will say, from the standpoint of you being hard on yourself and saying that it held you back, I would tell you that I think you've grown a lot in the last 3 to 4 years in that you're willing to challenge people today, because you do it to me all the time. There was a time where you might not have walked in and challenged me and said, well, you didn't think about this, or maybe you're not right about this. And I think those are the people that you need, because that's how we get better. I mean, we don't get better by saying, hey, you're fantastic, you're doing a good job, you're awesome. We get better by saying, you did a great job, have you thought about this? This might even be a little better, And I think you do great at that.
But you've got a true gift at handling conflict. Confrontation does not scare you, does it?
I think, no.
You told me that one day.
No, it doesn't. But I hate the way that sounds, because it sounds like I seek out that confrontation. That's really not the case.
Conflict's not negative.
Yeah, well.
That's what we need to change in America.
That's
you
right.
Have a microphone on? Or
Yeah,
you
you mean bringing mine? Yeah.
Give him a mic.
He's a coach, man. Boom. No, that's Andy Herzer, by the way. So,
Thank you, Coach.
He does have a. What'd you say? Yeah. My kids can tell you this. I all the time say to them, don't avoid a difficult conversation because it's uncomfortable. And the reason is, it will never not be uncomfortable if you don't have that conversation. And so it gets easier to have those conversations. And the thing that's really, really important, and this is another thing, I'm glad I'm running for an office that's not Democratic or Republican, not to offend anybody, but it's at large, so there's not a party declaration. And the reason is, man, it's an old, tired argument, this divisiveness that's going on in politics. And, it sucks the life out of people. And I think it keeps really people that are a lot more talented than me, it keeps really talented people out of government. And so as a result, I'm not saying we don't have great people in government, but we could have better people. There could be other people that would run. It would be more competitive. And I think that would be good for our community. But the problem is not the conversation. The problem is how we have the conversation. So.
Thank you, Coach. Hey, do we have any more questions? Somebody's got a question before I go into some more.
Ronnie, I've got a question. My dad was in politics.
Yep.
His whole career. All right? And I love the fact down here that we don't have to say we're left or right.
Yeah.
But we're in a very divisive full city council.
Yeah.
How are you going to bring them all together?
I think one of the things that positions me well is that I don't get emotional about a lot of those positions, and I can empathize with how people feel about that without it changing my course, because my course is going to be what's best. And I'm one, and Tommy and I do this all the time, but if I feel like that you're off, it doesn't matter who you are. If I think that you're off in your reasoning or your ideologue, I'm going to challenge you on it, and I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. And it's not going to be the confrontation that we see that shuts down growth, that shuts down progress. And I think that's what happens. People line up on each side, and they're saying, I'm not going to move 1 inch from this spot. That's not how I operate. I will want to have conversations with people that are on each side of that, because the more I know about how they believe and what they believe and why they believe it, I believe I can pull them closer to the center. And I think people aren't willing to ask those conversations because they're afraid that it challenges their own values, that it challenges their own position. I don't care, frankly. I want the best result. I want to do best for the same person sitting on this side as this side. And sometimes you got to ask tough questions, and sometimes you got to be willing to take some licks for that. I'm okay taking the licks.
Good question, Coach.
Hey, whether
Here's why I believe in Ronnie, and I've known Ronnie for a long time. He's done that in his life, and I think we're at a point. And most of you know I'm in an inner city ministry, and there's one side or the other side, and that's not how it is. We need to come to a common ground, and we need men like Ronnie that want to do that, like Tony Woodall wants to do.
yeah.
That's why I like to surround myself with people that will listen to both sides and come to a conclusion that's best for our community.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about Ronnie Martin.
Thank you, Andy. Weatherman asked other aspirations. I want to answer that.
Okay. Are you sure?
Am I sure? Or is he sure? Yeah. So one of the first people, so just the way I do things, I've already said, I don't think there's a manual on being a city council member. I think you got to learn as you go. I'm not the guy that's going to stand up and say, hey, I can solve all these problems, because I don't really understand. Or at least 4 months ago, I understood far less than I do today, because I've been doing my job, which is to go to work to try to understand things that are happening. And that takes time and work and all those sort of things. But one of the first people that I reached out to talk to was Tommy Campbell, who he's chair of the TV Cable Commission in town, which I didn't even know what that was. I went to that meeting last week. So again, more of the learning process. But, Tommy was a KA at MTSU, and Tommy can be tough. And that's one of the reasons I went to Tommy, because he can ask hard questions, and even if he loves you, he's still going to beat you up a little bit. And again, I'm attracted to those people because they make you better, right? And Tommy said, well, do you want to be mayor? And I said, well, no, I don't want to be mayor. Why would you ask me that? I'm here to talk to you about being a councilman. And he looked at me and he said, well, you understand that mayors come from council members. And I hadn't thought about that. And he said his opinion was, well, you shouldn't run for a council member if you don't want to be mayor, right? So I had to think and pause on that for a second, because I had not considered that. And, I took that information and I said, well, help me as I'm evaluating the council members piece, because that's what it's in front of me. I'll deal with this other piece if I get elected, because I may not get elected. So we went through that discussion, and what I have seen, I was talking to Phil about this a little while ago, the more council meetings I went to and the more I listened to what was being said, I listened to the questions that council members were asking. I listened to why they were asking the questions, and really tried to become a student of what was happening within the city government. And I started seeing places where here's a question I would ask that's really important that nobody's asking. And here's something someone's missing that I could explain. And in some cases, it was council members, right? And that does not mean that we don't have great council members. That's not the point. The point is, I have expertise in banking, which will translate to financial management of our city. We've got some great people that might not necessarily have that same expertise. They have expertise that I do not have. Real estate is something that I know something about. With the exception of our mayor, we don't have deep real estate experience on the city council. Doug Young had it. That's a big hole to fill, right? So who is going to help bridge that gap with the council members? I can do that. Who is going to be able to argue for developers when it's appropriate? Because I'm not anti-development and all the developers are bad in the community. I mean, there's a sentiment of that running within the community. If I'm true to what I say I'm true to, my job's to represent them just like it is someone who's anti-development, right? But my job is to come up with an explanation for why we're doing what we're doing, and to try to bring those things as close to the middle as I can for the good of everyone. And that may mean having some hard conversations with the developers, and it may mean having to have some hard conversations with citizens in the community. But if I don't commit myself to the best outcome, I'm not the best person for the job. Plain and simple. So do I want to be mayor? I have no aspirations to be mayor. I also had no aspirations to be a city council person. Do I want to be in the Senate? I have no aspirations to do that whatsoever. I'm going to focus on what I'm doing, be the best I can at it, and whatever happens from there happens.
I'm sensing that we're getting, this wasn't intentional to get to all these political questions. I'm not going to let you get off that easy, Ronnie,
yeah.
Because there's things I want people to know. How long have we been going, Kathleen? What time is it? 30 minutes. 30 minutes? Okay, we got about 10 or 15 more minutes. But I really like to dig in and talk about the real person of Ronnie Martin. And I like to share the stories I know of Ronnie.
I got a daughter here, don't forget that. So.
I know. Well, these are going to be the good stories, okay? But one day we were, back when Ronnie worked out with us at the MAC, early in the morning, I remember Ronnie would work out and he'd read the newspaper. He'd leave the newspaper over there and then he'd go read it and go do a set. But one day it was in the afternoon, I think. And I saw him in there, and we were talking about marriage because I was tangled up in a situation to where I thought, this is the one. I didn't know this woman was going to wreck my life, but he was talking about his commitment to marriage, and I'm going to use this term leverage. What he was really saying is he was always going to out-leverage Cynthia because he was going to do more for their marriage than she was. He was going to do so much to where she couldn't find a better option. I don't know if you remember this conversation, but we were doing it, and I still think about this. I say this to Brittany about, hey, my job is to make you believe there ain't a better option.
Right.
Share some insight on that belief, because I think that says a whole lot about who you are.
So first thing to be clear, those are aspirational things, right? So we can, if Cynthia were sitting here, and I'm sorry she's not here, she's in Nashville, but she would have loved to have been here. When Cynthia and I got married, I'd been married before, and so I'd been divorced for 3 years, and of course Cynthia and I were friends from high school. We had young children. It was a very easy thing for us to get close. And as we started talking about the possibility of remarrying, which is a big deal, one of the things I told her is, I said, look, I'm not somebody, we're all kind of complicated. I'm not somebody that I don't just exist for my children. Holland's heard me say this a lot. I don't just exist for my wife. I exist for Ronnie Martin as well. But I think it's important to say things like that, because what comes after that is the part of me that exists for you wants to be the absolute best I can be. And I want you to see that. And if you don't see that, I want you to call me out on it, because that's who I want to be. That's who I aspire to be. And so, Cynthia and I, she doesn't mind. You know her very well. She doesn't mind telling me where she thinks I'm falling short. She'll lay into me like it's nothing. You need to do this, and you're not doing this. And yes, ma'am. Or it's not always yes, ma'am. Sometimes it's yes, ma'am. But I think to have a successful relationship, we're talking about a marriage, you have to constantly give, and you have to constantly ask yourself, what do I want from this other person? And the best way to get something from someone else is to give them what you want. And so it takes investment, and it takes time, and it takes, genuine love and affection. And if you're not willing to give that, you shouldn't expect it. And I think that's a challenge we have in relationships. We have it in relationships with our children. We have it in relationships with our friends. But, it's a big deal.
Well, I think I've covered as much as I can. Well, I could uncover a lot more about Ronnie. But what I want people to know is I really believe Ronnie pursues greatness in everything he does, whether it's banking, whenever he becomes a city councilman. I remember when he was building his house, he was over there doing crazy things that were taking him all day because of how perfect he wanted things. So I think what we can learn from being around somebody like Ronnie is focus on being great. And that really is not limited to, I want to be great in this area, or I only want to be great at doing this. I think, like I asked Ronnie what his goals are. Hey, what are your goals? And he'll sit there and he'll tell me. He doesn't believe in goals like I do. He's got a unique belief on what his goals are. What are your goals, Ronnie?
I'm going to be the absolute best I can be today, and that's my goal every day. And, there are a lot of things we could talk about related to that, but the easiest one, my boss, Ben Weatherford, who's a great man, he's been a great mentor to me. Every year we have this conversation where he says, what are your, here's what we need to do as a bank. What do you think your goal should be? I said, you already know the answer to that. I don't want any goals. Don't put any goals on me. Now, to be fair, it's a little easier for me to say that because I'm one of the top producers in the bank, and I have consistently been one of the top producers in the bank. So it puts me in a little better position to come back to him and say, hey, don't put me in this box because I can't breathe, and I'm going to feel like I can't do the things I need to do. And I'm a big kind of read and react guy. I want to see opportunity, do the absolute best I can to engage in that opportunity. And if it means we work 2 or 3 weeks on a deal and the deal falls apart, that's just part of the deal, man. I mean, that's just the way things work. But if you don't, in my mind, if you don't focus on the effort, if you don't focus on being great and being good to people and building relationships, and you get laser focused on tick marks, and that's what I call them. But and look, tick marks can be effective. If you don't have some boundaries, some people need some of those boundaries to get to greatness. There are certain things about what I do that tick marks would help me. But I think I don't ever want to be in a position to say, I need to do something for Paul because I've got a goal over here that I've got to meet and I'm thinking about this goal. Or Tommy has something that he might do that maybe it's a little premature, but it would really help me if he did it before a quarter in. So I'm going to push him to do this. So I don't operate like that. And what I know is consistently, I have been successful taking care of people, building real relationships. Because here's the thing: I lend money. Money's a commodity. You can get money anywhere in town.
Does anybody need a loan out there?
Yeah.
Commercial. Scott Nagy.
So
you trying to buy anything else?
There are over 30 banks in town. You take your choice, right? What I've tried to build is that you can't get Ronnie Martin everywhere. You can't get my effort, you can't get my expertise, and you can't get my sincere commitment to you and your success anywhere you walk in, anywhere else. And so I'm going to start over on that tomorrow, and I'm going to start over on the next day. And the goals that we have as a bank, we'll get there, because that is what I believe in much more than anything else.
So part of my vision for Level Up is helping somebody that maybe they're stuck in their life. Maybe they haven't even started, but they need help. So if you're somebody that fits that, maybe you're young, maybe you're 25, maybe you're 35. What would you tell somebody? Hey, this is one thing you can do to fast track to success.
Be kind to people. All people, everywhere, whoever you meet, smile, be genuine, and be kind to people. Because there are a lot of people that, especially when you're young, you lose sight of how to do business, and you just do business. But the manner in which you conduct yourself and the manner in which you treat people says a whole lot about who you are. And people remember that. And at an early age, probably people take it for granted. And I'm talking about, people that are receiving this treatment. They may take for granted kindness. You work in the business environment for long enough, you run into enough people that you see that are not as interested in people, and they're more interested in the outcome than they are people. You tend to really value those people, and they stick out. Character sticks out. And so be kind to people, because here's the other thing. If there were no other reason to do it other than it's the right reason to do it, you don't ever know when you hit somebody at 18 or 25 or 30 when they're going to circle back to you, right? Mm-hmm. At 35 or 40 or 45 or 50. And you're going to think, oh, gosh, man, oh, man, I really did something stupid the last time I
screwed them over back in '99.
Well, and it didn't have to be, something intentionally, negative like that. It could be that you didn't talk to them, that, you let them sit by themselves in a corner and didn't reach out and didn't say, hey, welcome, didn't make them feel good about where they were, didn't make them feel good about themselves. You made them feel less good about themselves. People don't forget that stuff, man.
Yeah, I really do believe hurt feelings tend to last a long time. You don't forget it when somebody. Do we have any questions? Does anybody want to know anything about Murfreesboro real estate as we close up shop? Are there any questions specifically you have for Ronnie? Tommy Santel, Paul Parkerson, any questions?
Family question. How did when you decided to run for city council, how did the family?
Yeah.
How did that conversation
go? That's another piece of the longer story. I went home, so I started telling this story about Susan Young and that meeting at city council. And so I was sharing that with some of my friends, and they said, and I didn't say it for this. I promise you I didn't say it for this. But they started saying, you should run for city council. I'm like, look, I'm not telling you that because of that. I'm telling you what a tough situation our mayor was in. And you know what I mean? I just friends I was talking to. And immediately I started hearing this. And after it happened 2 or 3 times, I got a call from somebody, and they said, hey, I want you to think about this. And so I went home, and we were having dinner. We were having spaghetti. So, you know, I had my face down, and I'm, you know, talking, and I'm asking everybody, how was your day? Because, you know, I tell my kids all the time when we talk, what'd you do today? What'd you learn? You know, nothing. Well, then you wasted your time. You should have stayed home and skipped school. You know, I could have put you to work outside. We had chores you could have done. You know, you wasted your time. And so as we were having that conversation, I mentioned someone had, you know, asked me about running for city council. I didn't think enough of it at the time to even raise my head to see how people would respond. My wife chimes in, I think that's a great idea. My kids start chiming in, I think that's a great idea. And so I'm looking at them thinking, first off, who have you talked to and why are you saying that? You know, because I didn't understand that. And so immediately, because I'm an emotional guy, so immediately I start just kind of swelling up inside saying, why do you think I should do that? I mean, am I doing something wrong? Because, you know, while I'm 100% committed to this idea of getting feedback from the people around you, I will tell you, if you're a little bit vulnerable, it is extremely difficult to get feedback from people that are the closest to you, especially when you've got a young daughter or a young son that are talking up to you. It's hard, man. You know, you start thinking, man, have I screwed this thing totally up, right? But anyway, so, you know, they started telling me, hey, look, you're a great dad. You're a great husband. Here are all the things we love about you, and we're extremely thankful for you. We're extremely thankful for all these gifts. But you don't share those with anybody else. You share them with us. And I said, yeah, well, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm patting them on the head thinking, you're a good boy, you're a good girl. Not my wife, but my kids. And I was basically saying, you just don't understand, because I give to my clients. I give to you. I give to the people that I do business with, and I'm all in with you. When you call me, I expect to be there. If you need me, I expect to be there. And so that takes a different level of commitment when you do something like that. So I'm telling my kids, you just don't understand. I am giving. I am committed. And I don't remember who said it, but somebody at the table said, yeah, but you get paid to do that. So it's like, ugh, man, you know, it's tough. It's like, well, yeah, but I don't have to do it the way I do it. I would still get paid. Like, yeah, but you're still doing it that way because that differentiates, these are my words, that differentiates you from other people. It's what helps you become successful. So that's why you work so hard at it, because you get rewarded for doing it. Well, it put this guilty complex on me that I felt like, you know, I'm selfish. You know, I'm consumed with myself, and I'm bringing all of you with me because I want you to be hugely successful, and I'm consumed with your businesses. But what am I doing that I'm not being incentivized to do for anyone else? And so they are really the ones that pushed me to a point where I was willing to invest the time to say, okay, look, is this something I should really do? Am I going to feel guilty now if I don't do this because my family thinks I should do it? But I'm very thankful to have their encouragement. I'm very thankful to have their support. They already don't see me a lot as it is. Now they see me even less. But, you know, I make an effort. They make an effort to make sure we spend time together when we can. Holland came tonight. My other two knuckleheads didn't. You know, so they were supportive. They wanted me to do that. I think they knew it would be somewhat fulfilling for me. And, you know, and people say, I can remember I sat with Rick LaLance. He was one of the first people I called. So I called Rick and said, hey, I'm getting ready to run. I don't want you to think I'm running against you, but the way things work, I'm running against you. So I need to have that conversation with you so I can feel good about what I'm doing. And so we sat through, and he said, no, I think it's great. I'm glad you're doing it. We talked through that. You know, I needed something else. I'm 43. I needed something else to pour myself into to satisfy sort of the burden that was on me, and this is what I'm choosing to do.
Good question, Paul. Any other questions?
That's a long answer, sorry. But, yeah.
Well, part of Level Up is, like I was saying, I'm an outspoken advocate, and that means I fight for my friends. You know, some people may not understand why I fight so hard for them, but there's something about me that makes me feel better about myself whenever I help people. So, Ronnie, when can people get out there and vote for you? Part of our job as the Level Up Nation here, if you're listening on the podcast or if you're here, is we can support Ronnie by voting for him. You can also, there's no limit on your support. So one of the things I do is we make videos. We make posts. And if you see me making a video of Ronnie. I would appreciate if you share it, if you like it, if you comment, if you tell your friends. I mean, sometimes being an advocate, you got to get uncomfortable. You got to tell other people, hey, this is the guy that you need to vote for. And I believe the way you do that is if you know them, if you know who they are. And I can vouch for Ronnie. I know the inside of Ronnie. I know what a good man he is. And I'm asking for you to not just vote for him. I'm asking for you to advocate, to make posts, to say things, to tell people, hey, I met him, I heard him, I really like the guy. So what's the soonest that we could vote?
So early voting is in July, and then the election is August 2nd. So, you know, between now and then, I'm going to raise some money and keep getting an education on trying to be an effective city council member. And hopefully we'll get the result we want, and we'll go to work.
So a lot of times we don't know how to advocate. I like to make this simple, okay? So the ways you could give money, that's an easy way. But just sharing the message, sharing the word, telling people, just like I did for First Shot, for example, bring awareness. You know, like, I mean, so much is done today with social media. It's so powerful. You can help Ronnie by voting, by giving money, but most importantly, just imagine how many people you can influence if you put something on your Facebook about him. So every Wednesday, or I'm sorry, the first Wednesday of every month, we come together and we do this. It's called Level Up. The purpose of it is to advocate for one another, to help other people have a more successful life. So if you're in this group, I want to help you. We're going to put more on this on our Facebook page. But please, if you're listening to Level Up on our podcast, please subscribe, please comment, please rate us very high. I don't know what the highest rating you can give us, but give us something that helps other people become more aware. So advocate for this, but I do want people to get to know one another in this group, because your life can be made a lot easier whenever you've got other people out there fighting for you. Imagine if we got 50 people in here that are fighting for you, Tommy Santel. Whenever somebody says, hey, who's an attorney or who's an insurance guy, and you say Jeffrey Baker, I want us to have our own little built-in networking group where we help each other. So we're going to wrap this up, but I really, really do appreciate you coming here. If there's anybody you think that would be a good fit moving forward, I'd love for them to come. Again, I don't want this to be cannibalized by people in the same